Hello and welcome to the broadcast. We are now in season 2, episode 1. Now, you probably noticed from the initial start of the video, we're in a different setting. And for the first time, we're in a podcast studio. So you've probably noticed that there's no dogs barking in the back and there's nothing else going on. There's not somebody knocking on the door delivering Deliveroo or anything. It is a pure professional podcast. And today we've got a very special guest. We've got Mr. Jackson Reed of Venturi Electrolytes. So hello, Jackson.
Hello, sir. Thank you for having me.
No worries. It's really exciting to get you in here. So I guess this sort of came from a couple of different points. Obviously, we mainly focus on running. We focus on cycling, endurance training, life, and everything in between. And now one of the most sort of common questions, apart from what kind of shoes should I buy, is what kind of supplements can I buy? And the number one on the top of that list, especially here in the UAE, is electrolytes. So tell me a little bit about what you do, and then we can go into a bit of a discussion about sort of why we're having this discussion. So tell me a little bit about Venturi, a little bit about yourself, and help everybody who's listening to this understand a little bit about what's going on.
Yeah, so my name's Jackson. I've been in the UAE for 2.5 years now. And tapping my fingers. I've been here for 2.5 years. I've predominantly worked in finance my whole career. And when I moved out here, I was 55 kilos heavier than I am now. Mm-hmm. So I was a big boy. And so I had to lose that weight. And along that fitness journey, it was massively skewed to running. So I kind of realised along the way I needed a bit of help, especially outside running, obviously sweating a ton. So I looked at electrolytes, and me being me, numbers focused, I quickly realised by reading the back on the pack and having a Google search that most of the things that are in these electrolyte supplements don't really make sense. So that's kind of where Venturi was born, the idea. I didn't execute on the idea for like a year, and I still haven't executed because we haven't launched yet, but we're close. So Venturi was born from like curiosity, I guess. I know it sounds super cheesy, but reading the back of a label is not something many people do when it comes to supplements. So that's what I did. Research what was in it. Realized quickly that the stuff that is in these electrolyte supplements don't really add up with the marketing claims that these brands are making. So
You've got to take them with a pinch of salt.
Correct.
So to speak.
Yeah, pardon the pun. So yeah, that's exactly.
No, don't. Those puns are good.
Yeah.
I'm in.
So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to bring a solution to that problem. We're trying to give people great value for money, but also, something that actually does make a difference.
So obviously you went from not really knowing a lot about these products, so to speak, obviously starting the fitness journey, much similar to myself, going from somebody who was maybe overweight, or in my case, extremely overweight, and, I don't know what you'd class yourself as. And then you've sort of put yourself down the rabbit hole and came out as, not in your own words, not a product expert, but somebody who sort of knows and understands this product. So what's the journey been like, and, what have the learnings been like along the way?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think it's been eye-opening, because once you start to delve into the science behind it, it's kind of mad what happens in the industry at the moment. Like dosages, for example, if you go away and look at the optimal doses of magnesium, say, and then you correlate it with what's on the back of a packet of most brands these days, and what form it also as well, those type of things, it's been really eye-opening as a journey. That's kind of what I'm bringing Venturi Alive to because I want people to be educated and actually read the back of a packet and go, that's going to help me, or that's not going to help me. Yeah. Am I getting good value for money here? Because 9 times out of 10, you're not getting good value for money.
I find that like super interesting as somebody who like uses electrolytes, and I've probably tried every different brand out there, and this is not to put you on the spot, but what would you say? Let's cover the basics for people. So what are electrolytes, and what are the basic ones that you would look for somebody who's going to provide, this could be even a daily electrolyte or a sports electrolyte. Imagine I know nothing about this subject, and, just hit us out there with what are the sort of key findings, what is it we're looking for?
Yeah, I think electrolytes, the best way, everyone knows the 3 key ones that people look for mainly are magnesium, potassium and sodium. But for some reason, the industry's glorified sodium as like the number one. I won't get too far into the science bit, but magnesium is so important, because without adequate amounts of magnesium, the sodium doesn't really matter, because essentially you've got the sodium and potassium pump, right? That is the number one thing in the body that, when it comes to hydration, that is number one. The sodium potassium pump, that is the most important number one function when it comes to hydration, and not many brands talk about it. So that sodium potassium pump does not work efficiently unless there's adequate amounts of magnesium in the body. Okay. So most of the population these days, whether it's from changes in the soil and things like that, magnesium deficiency is very common. Yeah. And especially in athletes, because when you're under a ton of stress, the body excretes magnesium a lot faster. So a lot of brands forget to talk about magnesium and its benefits in detail, and then also talk about optimal dosages. That's where we're going to try and come in and obviously try and educate around the use case of magnesium. Venturi is going to be very, very focused on magnesium and its benefits for both athletes and the everyday person.
Yeah, I think you see that quite a lot, actually. If like you probably look at any person on Instagram or any person on any social media, they're always pumping that, like, the two most important supplements are probably vitamin D for most people, because we're all vitamin D deficient, and magnesium. But I must admit, I'm quite, I do get my athletes to make sure they're supplementing with this, especially as it helps with sleep and it helps with obviously hydration. But I must admit, I'm very naive when it comes to understanding the different types of magnesium and understanding how that actually drives the body. And honestly, when I said before, imagine me not knowing anything about electrolytes, I've actually just realized with you saying that, actually genuinely I'm probably pretty clueless. I know what the line is to tell somebody on how many milligrams of sodium to focus on during a race, and I know what's best practice and I know what's put into practice, but really I'm probably actually pretty clueless, and as are probably 99% of the population. Actually, they might even be a bit further behind, because at least I know some basic things. So it's just absolutely crazy, like, that we're not really informed on this subject.
I think the form is the most important thing for me. Obviously, the dosage as well. It depends. That determines whether you're being ripped off or not.
Right. Okay.
But the form is so important. For example, you could have 1,000 milligrams or 100 milligrams, say, of magnesium oxide on the back, and be like, that's a great dose of magnesium. But you only absorb on average around 4% of magnesium oxide.
Okay.
Not many people know that the literal use case of magnesium oxide is a laxative. So if you have that in a hydration blend, why is that the optimal form to use? You don't absorb much of it, and that magnesium is crucial when it comes to ATP, for example, and that is what essentially the energy currency that you use to power that sodium potassium pump. So logic suggests we need to focus as an industry on magnesium, not just sodium. Sodium is important.
So what is the optimum type of magnesium to be like putting into a supplement? I guess that leads me to the question that I was trying to get to.
Yeah, so I think you then need to look at enhancing the absorption. So you've got magnesium citrate, which is used commonly in a lot of brands, but again, it can produce that laxative effect. I don't know if you know people who've ever had a bad belly from taking too many electric. Yeah, really, you get bad stomach sometimes.
Just every day of my life.
Yeah. So magnesium citrate is also used as a laxative. In many hospitals, it's used as a laxative, obviously in much higher dosages, but it doesn't really add much more value to the consumer when you take magnesium citrate. It's got a bit of a better absorption rate, but you want to be looking at things that are actually going to add value to an athlete or an everyday person's day. So
we've got magnesium citrate, we've got magnesium oxide.
They're two very common types found
and then
in
the type that I take, slate me or rate me, magnesium glycinate. What type is this? And obviously I've only heard anecdotally and from the things I've read that this is the one that we need to be focusing on as athletes for sleep and recovery. I don't even know if that's true.
It is true. It's one of the magnesium bisglycinate is bound, or chelated is the word, with glycine, and glycine helps to relax muscles. So that is good for recovery. However, when you look at things like if you're taking it mid-race, for example, are you really thinking about your recovery? Obviously, you want to be thinking about your recovery, but at the time of taking that supplement, you're most likely not, thinking about your recovery, i.e. mid-race or before. So you need to be looking at types of magnesium. They're going to help you, concentrate, produce energy. Again, you see a lot of brands talk about how electrolytes can give you energy. They can't, because a lot of them are low calorie, right? They're 0 calorie in some cases.
Yeah,
So by definition, an electrolyte supplement cannot give you energy directly. So
that was actually interesting. Sorry to interject, but when I did something for a large Japanese manufacturer of an electrolyte drink that probably a lot of you know in the Middle East here, they were saying that they're not allowed to actually, legally, they're not allowed to advertise that it is an energy drink. It is a, it gives you power, it gives you endurance. There's like 10 keywords that they're not allowed to say, because if they do it, then they're going to get like sued, basically.
Yeah. So I think what will happen is you'd often have like a regulator come in and say you're not allowed to say that. So this is one big problem with the supplement industry. It's self-regulated. So no one's really there policing what you can and can't say. But when a product goes through approval, the stage that I'm currently at now, you have to be so careful what you say on your packets and stuff like that. But on social media, it's sometimes, and the company's website, is free for all. So you often see on a packet energy support. So that will usually be allowed through, because you're not saying directly this product gives you energy. It's there to support energy, and technically that's true, because there's magnesium in there that can help with ATP production. So that is a way brands get around these type of things. And again, like I said, my journey being eye-opening, I'm starting to learn all these different things, how brands phrase things in certain ways to make it sound. For example, I saw a brand the other day saying our magnesium is highest, it is chelated, and that sounds fancy to the average person, but all that really means is like mixed.
Yeah,
it doesn't really, those type of things. So that's what I want to come in and as a brand that comes out, my tagline is nothing to hide. I want to be dead open, dead transparent about why we're using certain types of ingredients, how much of it and why, and what it does. And I won't be using marketing fluff or anything like that. So
straight down the line.
And what that means for me is that my product will be a lot more expensive to make relative. I'm not going to conjecture on what brands pay like in the UAE, but on average, globally, you're looking at like 5 pence per sachet, and they're retailing at like £1.
Yeah, so you're operating like 95% profit margin.
Yeah.
And I do sort of understand and see that happening with the amount of like substandard electrolyte brands that have maybe came up without sort of science backing. And it's sort of I think you used the word earlier when we had a conversation, it's like the word for like copy paste, where you just go and effectively go to a company and say, I want to start white label. So the next greatest and latest influencer comes out and says, oh, there's 95 pence on the dollar to be made on every electrolyte. So I'm going to go to this company, they're going to make it, and then I'm just going to produce it and put my face and name on it, where really they've actually probably not looked on it. And we spoke about this at length previously about, like you said, about magnesium oxide being a laxative and causing distress. They don't know, and they don't really care. They're making 95 pence every pound.
Exactly. So once it's out, they don't even need repeat buyers. Like I'm going to need repeat buyers to make the business work. You make a great point about white labeling, because this has taken me a year and a bit to get where I am, and I haven't even launched the product yet. If I did it white label, I could go to a manufacturer and it would take me 3-4 months tops. And I could pay a branding agency to go put it all together and do everything, and I wouldn't even need to touch it. And I'd probably still make a fortune on it, So but the thing is, with white label, it comes at a cost in terms of what you can actually put into it. So I can't go to a white label manufacturer and say, I want this type of magnesium at this dose, because all they do is they have tons and tons of this magnesium blend on a shelf, and then they'll take it, put it in a sachet and put a logo on it, but they don't touch the powder. It's all ready, it's all done, but they'll just give that same powder out to 15 different brands. There's probably 10 different brands, 100 different brands globally, or within, let's say just within the UK, that have the same blend, but just different packaging.
Yeah, makes
So
sense.
they're all, there's no flexibility in formula, whereas ours is custom formulated. So that's why it's taken so long. I've built the flavor itself. I've built the dosages. I've built everything around it, how it's packaged. I've picked certain sachets because I want to make, for example, a lot of the feedback I've had about electrolytes in the UAE is that they're quite hard to open sometimes.
That's true.
We're trying to, we've built a sachet, we haven't built a sachet custom, but we found a sachet that allows athletes who are running to put this in their bottle a lot easier, or
They're either impossible to open or the package gets damaged when it's in your race belt so that you can't actually use it as a functional product. So it's like, surely somebody find a waterproof, rippable pouch, which it sounds like you've got one.
Maybe.
But so like you're talking about dosages there. So when you talk about dosages in your product, is the dosage sodium? Like we've covered magnesium, I think, and that's like really important and what the other brands are missing. And obviously sodium is a super important, although it's one of the most important things to think about. Is that what you're basing your dosage based system on? Is that what you're saying, or is it
my view is it's not even a view, it's like basic physiology that everyone sweats differently. Everyone's energy output on any different day is different. So therefore, by definition, the electrolyte shouldn't be one size fits all. So then what that means is that brands come out with 1,000 milligrams of sodium, heavily skewed towards endurance athletes. We'll get onto that in a minute in terms of, I think 1,000 milligrams of sodium is wrong, but your brand will come out with 1,000 milligrams and it skews heavily towards endurance athletes. And then you've got down the other end, with the 200 milligrams of sodium, which is more towards the everyday person. So like, it's quite hard for people to stick to one brand and actually be within one like system. And that's what I'm trying to produce. I'm trying to give people an option on sodium content within the same brand. So the same flavor, same cost, same this, that, the other optionality for the consumer and the athlete. And then what that means is that you can take, a higher dosage of sodium during exercise and training or before, and then you can on rest days take a lower dosage of sodium, but then still get a good dose of magnesium. So for example, if you were running in a marathon and you were aiming for say 800 milligrams of sodium, within a given time frame, depending what your sweat rate is, you might not be able to hit that dosage in your electrolytes by taking 2 of one type of sachet. Because it might be above, it might be below.
Yeah, sure.
So
if you have one specific.
Yeah. So if you're sticking to one brand with that one dosage, you might be in a bit of a pickle, because if you need to hit say 800 and you've only got a packet with 1,000, you're going to have a excess of 200. So what about if I could give someone an option where they could take 2 sachets but hit the right amount of sodium and not hinder their performance as a result, being above or below? So there's that type of thing. What we're trying to do, we're calling it System 001 by Venturi Labs, which I will speak about more. So yeah, we're trying to give people an option on sodium content.
When you overdose on sodium, so the way that any training conventional sodium is, conventional training that I've been taught or any endurance stuff, they say it's fine because you can discrete excess sodium as waste product, which is filtered by your kidneys, and then your kidneys and your body effectively flush out the rest of your sodium. So it's not too much of an issue, doing that. That's the sort of first question. Is that correct? And
I disagree. And all the literature I've read says that you can essentially, the average human has 97 to 100 grams of sodium in the body already. So there's plenty of sodium within the body. So you can actually deplete your sodium stores, but I think it's around 25% before performance starts to suffer. So overdosing on sodium, essentially, you have to look at it from intracellular, I can never say that, fluid, and extracellular fluid, which is essentially intracellular is the fluid inside the cell. And when you have too much sodium in the intracellular, I always get these confused. You wouldn't think that I'm bringing out an electrolyte when I can't even talk about the actual thing.
We've got it.
Intracellular fluid. If you have too much sodium in the blood, you're pulling water out of that cell. That is a problem.
It's like it's the process of osmosis, right?
Exactly that. It's
High
exactly
concentration to low concentration through a semi-permeable membrane.
Yes, mate. GCSE.
GCSE.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I need to get that in there so people know that I'm clever.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So that is so that is exactly it. I don't know why sodium's glorified because of exactly because of that. So people are downing, 2,000-3,000 milligrams of sodium like during a half marathon
Right.
that I know, and it makes no sense to me unless you're in an. You should only be taking doses that high if you're, running for 2 or more hours outside. That is not optimal at all for the human body. By definition, it is not. For some reason, this industry has glorified salt, and my best bet is it's because it's the cheapest. Just to give you some insight,
Of all the electrolytes that
Exactly.
you get, that's the cheapest one.
So, like back at home, you can go buy a bag of table salt for how much?
Yeah, 50 pence.
50 pence, nothing. So it's very smart of the industry to glorify salt as the most impressive thing.
And as like people, we are massively over consuming salt.
Exactly,
aren't we?
Point. Yeah.
Like we're like way over what we should be recommended, right?
And that is the premise of Venturi. So sodium intake by the population on average is way too high. And in the UAE, the average sodium intake a day is 9 grams. So that's because obviously things can be preserved to make, because a lot of things here are imported.
Quite a lot of people eat processed food diets also.
Exactly. So the sodium intake in the average person's diet is usually in excess of what you need. So what does that mean? That means you do not need as much sodium during exercise.
Right,
So
yeah.
again, this does change if you're running a trail run for 9 hours straight and you're outside in Ras Al Khaimah. Those type of things, you have to really understand how much you sweat as an individual, then you replace them accordingly. But for the average person, you do not need 1,000 milligrams of sodium. But that is the premise of Venturi, exactly that. An average person will have too much sodium in their diet and not enough magnesium. And that gap matters because if you want to perform to your highest level, basic physiology and basic science means you need magnesium and potassium in good ratios compared to how much sodium.
Is there an optimal ratio?
It's very.
Is it across the board? Anyone can sort of make.
It's so
arguments
hard
for it all.
Yeah. So the optimal potassium to sodium ratio. That's what I was talking about. That sodium potassium pump. The optimal ratio in a supplement, and this is where brands have a problem actually giving people what they need, is because so you need around a 2.5 to 2 to 1 ratio to make that. For an endurance exercise supplement, you need around that. And that's the optimal ratio. The science suggests that anyway. It's like 2 to 1 glucose ratio in a gel carb, in a carb gel.
Yep.
So potassium in the UAE and potassium in the UK and potassium in the US are regulated by kind of the same different standards. You're only really legally you're only allowed to put 200 milligrams of potassium within one supplement.
I've seen that actually on all the supplements, and
They're always
question.
200 milligrams.
It's always 200, but I just never questioned why.
And that's because taking too much
You can get potassium poisoning.
Yeah.
Effectively.
So if you take like monstrous amounts of it, it can do some damage to like intestines and stuff. But we're talking like
It's I looked it up. It's like 100 bananas worth.
exactly a lot. So
It's like mental amounts.
it's always been the case with supplements that you can only have a certain amount of potassium, and when it comes to like per serving, you're only allowed to give 200 milligrams unless it's medical grade, but that's a whole different kettle of fish. So what we're talking about here is a dietary supplement. So 2 to 1 to 2.5 to 1 ratio of sodium to potassium for like an endurance exercise supplement.
I guess I find that interesting. Like, obviously, I think I'd never heard of that sodium potassium pump. So, like, it's interesting to hear that, and I hope people sort of will take away and be able to go up and look up that kind of thing, and maybe review what kind of supplement that they're taking, and maybe see if what they're taking is optimal. I guess I see this all the time, and I see it probably at every session in the morning. People turn up, and they've got their purple water and their orange water, and they've got 2 liters of the stuff that's got 5 sachets of the latest and greatest, and it could be any brand, I don't know. And I see them chugging it. And often I just say to people, for the most part, I think we need to be hydrating, with more water. Do you reckon that is a fair statement? Or do you reckon that there is, a good still use case of, making sure you're having a daily electrolyte? Because I'd never really heard of a daily electrolyte until I'd moved to the UAE. In the UK, I can't tell you how many miles and did so many different exercises, played rugby, did all this different stuff. Nobody ever gave us an electrolyte. For years, the best marathon runners, they put an extra bit of salt on their fish and whatever. I had the same podcast with my dad, and that's what he said that they did as runners. And for the most part, you ate a balanced diet. Do you think that's maybe just because these other supplement companies have done really well at brainwashing marketing? Or do you think it's because we need it due to depletion in our diet's probably not as whole food orientated and, whatever? Or is there a different reason that I'm perhaps not thinking of?
Yeah, so the magnesium deficiency is where I'm really trying to hone in on for the everyday person. So 75% of people on average are deficient in magnesium. And I'd be willing to bet a lot of those people are athletes. Again, because when your body's under stress, you do excrete magnesium more than the average person. So yes, there's room. On a rest day, you could take an electrolyte with low sodium, but high dose of magnesium. For example, I don't want to go into too much detail pre-launch what we're going to have in ours, but we're going to have the equivalent of a bag and a half of spinach of magnesium. It's quite hard to,
eat a bag and a half of spinach.
Unless
you're Popeye.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So that's what we're gunning for. So we want to explain to people the benefits of magnesium, both as an everyday person and then as an athlete.
I'm not going to shit myself if I eat a bag and a half worth of magnesium.
That is a great point, because a lot of the types that are used in other brands, you probably would.
Yeah, okay.
But we're using, types of magnesium that will not produce that result. And we recently gave out 300 samples, and I had not one person tell me I had a bad stomach from it.
No, fair enough. I think that's super interesting. A question for you then. Obviously, you're massively passionate about magnesium. Would you not consider just doing a magnesium-only product? Or is that something that, to be revealed at a later date? Or
to be revealed, sir. Well, there's definitely ideas in the pipeline. Because I really want this brand to add value, and not in terms of like a free bottle or something like that. I have about, I don't know about you, but I have about 6 protein shakers, and I have about 6, branded bottles in the cupboard. I want to add value by giving people things that work and enhance their everyday life. So definitely, there's definitely a nice product pipeline building up in my head. But again, it comes down to cost. Like, this is not cheap to do what we're doing. Completely bootstrapped for now, doing this all myself. So yeah,
it's exciting. And then obviously coming close to actually a physical launch date. Do you have an actual physical launch date for the product that people can look out for, or is it TBC, or
TBC? But I've been doing this for a year now, and people are probably sick of me saying, "Oh, Venturi Electrolytes," but it's coming. We're nearly there. The aim is like mid-Feb to late Feb. That might not be 26. So not long. But that said, this is a situation where there's a lot of hoops to jump through. I'm at the stage where, manufacturing comes into question. How much is that going to cost me to manufacture? Building this type of brand, if you've never done this before, you learn about these things in the moment, like how much it's going to cost you. You won't know until the very last minute. So again, but with a white label supplement, you could go to a manufacturer and say, how much is that going to cost me to get it over here? And they'd be like 15p per sachet, and you're done. But with me, it's been cost there. Magnesium coming from France, magnesium coming from Germany, those type of things. To collate it into one, takes time to understand how much this is actually going to cost me. So that is why this is taking so long. But yeah, aim for mid-Feb, maybe early March, which is a shame because I'm going to miss Burge to Burge. I was gutted about that. I'd love to have given out a few to BRP guys before that, but
I'm sure they would have absolutely loved it.
Exactly. But
what would you say? I'm just going to totally change tracks for a second,
sure,
just to get you off the whole chat directly about your supplement, because I realized that we've obviously went straight in on that no holds bar. But what sort of inspired your fitness journey to begin with. Like, to give you a little bit of a brief background if you don't know. Like, I was myself like overweight, and I've got to stop using the term extremely overweight because I'm putting myself down.
Yeah.
I was overweight.
Yeah.
You know, the best part of like 19 stone. Didn't do any runs. You know, apart from like my yearly fitness test that I had to do, and struggled through it every year, and then just kept going through. And then eventually, I decided I had to make a change and sort of go. So you know, I've been through the same journey that I've seen so many people do that have come down, and you know, I've coached running and had the privilege to be able to coach, and everyone's got a different story about that. And my story is, you know, slightly different to everyone else's. But what's your story? What sort of first of all led to the change, and what continues to drive it? Because obviously you're a part of our community here at BRP, and you know, you're a coached member of the team, and you know, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I guess this all started, like my journey's been, you know, a dark one, I guess. I don't know about you, but I used to wake up feeling miserable. Like I used to wake up and look at myself in the mirror and go, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, I was so unhappy with how I looked and everything. So it was like, I don't know, I can't really remember the exact moment, but it was like, this has got to change.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've got to do something about this. I think the best way, the time I can remember was when I actually met my current girlfriend. That was 2 years ago, and at that point I was still big, and I was like, I really want to, you know, if I can see a life with this girl, I need to change. So that's where I actually started at Barry's boot camp, shortly after I met her, and that's ever since then, like, my weight's come down. So I guess it's like the dark psychology of being so overweight, and then like wanting more from life. If that makes sense.
Of course, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You know, as a bloke, you always think, I want a wife and kids, and I want to be successful. But I quickly realised you can't really always have that if, you know, you're not that confident in yourself. I know that sounds mad cheesy, but you have to be happy in how you feel.
Yeah, before you
like,
be able to like
grow
project
in
that
life.
out, like towards other people. Yeah,
that's pretty much.
And like the change. No, I'm going to sound like that. Like the change starts with you. Like you put yourself and get yourself back into a bit of a better shape. Yeah, it's definitely like a journey though. Like, and anyone who's been through that sort of transformational journey will know like how difficult it is. And it's like probably most of the time 2 steps forward and 5 or 6 back. And you know, you eventually find out what works for you and find out your niche and find out what, you know, you enjoy, and then eventually it becomes, you know, part of your life, hopefully for most people, you know. Which hopefully it is for you. You know, you managed to find your way in fitness and enjoy that, and
still very much ongoing. Like, that's why I've joined you. I needed that accountability. Like, with a lot going on, I needed like a bit more structure, and you know, joining BRP is definitely giving it to me. Like, you and Cara are brilliant at giving that, and coming down and being able to join a community that everyone wants to do better. That really is like something that I wanted to be part of. So yeah, super happy I joined you guys.
Yeah, it's key. Like, I think people often miss that step. Like, it's okay to sort of say and put the David Goggins podcast on and be like, oh, I'm going to be a savage today and turn up and do the workouts. But eventually you come round to the point that it's like not weak to ask for help, or it's not weak to be somebody who's like, right, I need to lean on a community, I need to lean on individuals. Like, if you were going to start a business, you go and start asking 10 people who have started businesses that are similar and ask for help. That's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of like growth, really. And I think that's super important. Something I try and get across to people, be like,
100%.
just ask for help more often, hey. And then whether that's you like feeling like rubbish, you want to get yourself into better shape, maybe your mind's not in good shape and you need help with that, or maybe your business needs help, like ask somebody for help. Or, you know, you want to learn more about electrolytes, ask your mate to come in and do a podcast on electrolytes and learn a little bit more about it. So I think it's like super important, and yeah, it's like all part of a sort of major journey. It's really exciting to see, and I absolutely love to see that change. Like, I love to see people go down. It brings me pleasure, and like I think that's like, I was lucky enough that along that journey of me changing like my life, that I eventually started like coaching in other people, and then started being able to be like part of their journey. I almost like got like a sense of second satisfaction, like, oh, I'm getting better and they're getting better, and we're like, you know, I've found like almost my purpose. But it sounds like you've almost found your purpose in the fact that you've thought of this maybe electrolyte thing along the way of your journey, and sort of tied it in and said, right, I've realized that there's a purpose, that I need to educate these people because they're getting fueled and hydrated on substandard product.
Yeah, I feel like this sounds strange, but I'm just a generally, I like to think anyway, I'm a nice person. Like I don't see, it costs nothing to be kind and like look out for other people and, do those type of things. So that's kind of why I'm doing this in a weird way, if that makes sense, because I'm seeing people getting ripped off. And that annoyed me. That's essentially it. It doesn't take a genius to like read the back and go out and research these different things and relay that information. That's essentially what I'm doing. But that relaying that problem and providing a solution. That's essentially what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely love to see it. To be honest, it's really exciting. I reckon we'll see it go from like strength to strength when it eventually does launch. But I think it's like super important. You've said like, oh, people have seen me doing it for a year, and we've not, like, I think that's, to do it right, you've got to do that. Like, you could easily have just white labeled and backed off the back of someone else and just launch it. But is that doing what's easier? Is that doing what's right? Like, it's like a running training program, right? Like, you can go and skip steps, but you're doing the easy thing. You're not doing the right thing.
Exactly. So that's exactly it. So I'm very proud of, what I've produced with this. And that's always who I've been, ever since I've lost my weight, I've always been very self-proud. I always want to do things the best possible way for both myself and other people, whether that's me or, my missus, those type of things. So I'm trying to translate that into this product. And that means it does cost me a lot more. And that doesn't mean we're going to be like really expensive or anything, by the way. But I really want to try and capture that with both, my journey online on social media and the product itself. I think that's really important, because I think the way you're doing things as well on your social media, like, transparency wins. Like, people want to see the face of a brand. Like, ads don't really work anymore. And people are getting very good at calling out the BS, to put it lightly. And I think that's brilliant. I think it's brilliant for people like you and I as well. So yeah, that's essentially where we are as a brand.
I'm interested to know, like, obviously we've discussed, and we're not like the kind of people who would like go out and dog other products, but I'm interested. I've seen a few heavy claims from other electrolyte companies. Like, for example, this is when I realized that I truly didn't know anything about electrolytes, where one of the companies claimed that they had like over 50 different types of electrolytes in their product. Now, obviously, you've got the major ones which we've touched on: the
like
sodium,
50
magnesium,
different supplements,
50 different electrolytes. Okay, so they're classing.
I don't think there is even.
Well, they're classing these electrolytes, and this is where I went into a bit of like research about. They're classing electrolytes as things like copper and selenium, and these other.
I think they've just got that wrong.
But where. What are some of? I'm basically saying that this might have been like a bold claim. What are some of the most like egregious claims that perhaps you've ever read, or is it like, is there some things that are like a bugbear of yours that you like maybe not touched on already?
Yeah, and that's another thing I want the brand to do, is like not just focus on electrolytes, because people are getting their eyes ripped out in other ways. For example, you often see supplements that claim to replace like 150 different things, and GLP-1 support, like with the GLP-1 jabs and stuff. That's becoming quite common. So you're starting to see brands pick on like pressure points for consumers, like GLP-1, and the people telling you to eat collagen because of it, or drink collagen powder and stuff like that, because apparently it reduces the frame of your face or something like that. It's just not the case. Like, but that will scare a consumer. Oh, well, therefore I need to go buy this collagen because of this. That to me is wrong. Like, that's a big bugbear of mine, when brands pick on like pressure points of the everyday person to try and sell a product. So that annoys me. And then don't deliver with a product. If you can pick on the pressure point and deliver a solution, fair enough. But if the product falls short from a scientific perspective like that, I think that's crazy. But anyway, and then there's that, and then there's also supplements that claim that they can replace 150 different things here and there. In my view, you need to be very cautious of these sometimes, because what a common practice is in the industry is it's called fairy dusting. So on the back of a label there'll be like 50 different things But then one of those lines will be like blend or something like that. Proprietary blend is a commonly used way to phrase it. And what that does, it stops the supplier or the brand itself having to tell you the dosages. So even if you take a picture of the back of it and put it into ChatGPT and say, is this possible to do? Like, is this ingredient list, does it line up with the claims? And 9 times out of 10, it says no. And here's why. But one of the common practices is this thing called fairy dusting, where they'll take, let's say, a pinch of let's say magnesium 3 and 8, which is good for the brain. They'll take a really small amount of it and put it into the product, but then they're legally allowed to make the claim online that it helps,
cognitive function.
Correct. So you could have a list of 50 different claims, and take a little pinch of something that allows you to make those claims, but put barely anything in it. So you can basically have a supplement that technically, from a law perspective, a legal perspective, can enhance, help support energy and 50 different things, because it's got these 50 different ingredients, but in really small amounts. That is something you commonly see a lot. But then these brands can charge, $100 upwards.
That's super frustrating, but really interesting. We're going to go into a quick fire set of questions from the community. But meanwhile, while we're doing it, obviously, I'd like to hear from you. Like, this has never really been about, sort of pushing your product, and like ultimately, I've got no stake in the claim, but I'd love for you to be able to like say where people can obviously find your product, and where eventually it'll be available for sale, and where you are on socials, etc., and what the sort of plans for that. If you give us a quick sort of brief on that.
We're on obviously Instagram and TikTok under Venturi Labs, and we should be coming hopefully live in mid-Feb to early March, as I said. Who knows, things might change on that front, but you can find us on Instagram mainly. That is my main.
And you're going to be selling it from there?
Oh, no. So you'll be able to find it on our website. Hopefully, we're going to hit the likes of Deliveroo, Amazon, a full distribution chain. But, again, that comes with its own complexities. But we will get to that point soon. But on launch, we'll be hopefully on, the D2C stuff. So, like on our website, and then Deliveroo as well.
That's exciting. We're buzzing for mid-Feb, end of Feb. Well, just to ask, these are all from our community, effectively the people who ask me questions on Instagram. I've tried to skip out the ones that are complete nonsense of the people who are taking the mick. But someone's asked about sodium content, and it matters. Basically, the derivatives of it. If some of them claim we've got natural sea salt derivative, blah, blah, blah. Does it matter or does it not matter? So sodium? Sodium is
sodium. So that's actually, I could talk about this for hours. So sodium, the type of sodium does matter, but like if someone says, a brand says pink Himalayan salt's better for you, that's not true, because they're saying that because pink Himalayan salt has different trace minerals in. So they say our salt has magnesium and potassium in, but this fun fact, you'd have to eat 2 kilos of pink Himalayan salt to get 25 milligrams of magnesium. So it's like negligible.
What's the bad thing that's in pink Himalayan salt?
No,
iron.
No, you can have
iron.
You can have like heavy metals and stuff like that if it's not processed properly. So that's another thing. Pink Himalayan salt isn't always...
Heavy metals is like food products, by the way. It's not like AC/DC and
yeah.
Just in case anyone's wondering.
But the type of sodium, in my opinion, does matter from like performance perspective. So like sodium citrate and sodium chloride. What do you sweat? You sweat sodium chloride. But a lot of brands use sodium citrate because it doesn't taste salty because there's no chloride in it. So those you need to replace if you claim to replenish, you need to use sodium chloride, in my opinion. Sodium citrate, people who like it might say, you can use it as a lactic acid buffer, but you have to have loads of sodium citrate to be able to do that. It's like 500 milligrams per kilo of body weight, and it's like you'd have to drink 40 kilos of it, or no, 4 kilos of it.
People down Kite Beach are trying to do that right now. They're trying to drink 40 kilos every morning.
4 grams, I think it works out, or something like that. But you have to take a lot of sodium citrate to, have a lactic acid buffer, make it a lactic acid buffer. And it's just not possible in an electrolyte supplement. So, yeah, if you ever see a brand say that, it's probably not the case.
Does it matter, or does it cancel out the electrolytes you're taking if you drink more water? So that was the question.
No, because the electrolyte dose is still the same. If you start drinking loads and like it depends. If we're talking like a liter, no. But if you drink 3 liters of water and just put one, you might be in a bit of trouble because you're going to lower your
which is something that's really important that I'm going to touch on actually, is which the number one most dangerous thing in race is hyponatremia, which is over drinking. So which is I see a lot, and most of the people, if you ever listen to the Science of Sport podcast, the guy talks about it on there, about most people end up in race medical tents because of over drinking water,
blood plasma and stuff.
So basically they just dilute their blood plasma. So even if you drink 4 liters of water, obviously you're drinking diluted, even if it's got electrolytes, compared to your total blood volume, you're actually just still over drinking water and diluting it, and you can end up in serious danger. But effectively, if you're taking, let's talk sensible amounts of water. If you drink 3 liters of water and have 1 sachet, it's still you're taking in what you're taking in.
Exactly.
It doesn't change. It just changes the percentage that's in there.
You just have to be. It's like that's like a common sense measurement. Like if you did 3 liters of water with 1 sachet, like you could be in a potential, bit of a pickle. But I don't really know many people who do long enough races anyway to drink 3 liters, and they're not that stupid. They don't never use 1 sachet. But anyway, I'm rambling.
So is it better? Last couple of questions. Is it better to have, say you're somebody like, for me, I've been testing, do 750 milligrams of sodium per hour, and that's like apparently a fact. Say you're someone that does 1,000. This person has asked, is it better to take 1,000 milligrams in one shot, or is it better to take it spread out throughout the day, or is the science still out there on that? What's the situation?
This is so many different variables to that. There's so many different variables, but like a one blanket answer, definitely take, like, the sodium pills, for example. If you need to like supplement sodium, take lower doses more frequently. That is a lot of the literature says that. Because if you smash 1,000 milligrams of sodium, but you've only got 200 milligrams of potassium, then that sodium potassium pump is going to be in a bit of a pickle. So sodium's there to draw water into the cell, but potassium needs to be there in a good ratio to push out that excess salt when it doesn't need the rest of it. Otherwise, you're just going to have a ton of sodium in your cells, and that's not, or your blood. And that draws water into the gut, and therefore, you become in a pickle very quickly.
So out there's people saying that there's people working on all sorts of fantastic products. Are you working on an electrolyte vape? Answer the people.
Absolutely not. I was actually a really heavy smoker and recently come off vapes. Not recently, about a year ago, and I've never been healthier and fitter in my life. So I will definitely not be producing.
Vapes are cancelled.
Yeah.
I ask this to everyone. I normally ask this near the start. Is there something, it doesn't have to be fitness related, it doesn't have to be electrolytes related. What are you putting into your... You can put something in a box, lock it up. It's gone from the world today. What's the one thing you put away and you get locked up?
What? So I can never ever have it again?
No, you don't have. It's like, you could get rid of. I'm trying to think of the examples of different things that we have. You can get rid of like. It could be anything. It could be like flat tires on bicycles, or it could be you never get a flat tire on your bicycle again, or it could be or sodium electrolyte products that don't have enough sodium, or it could be it could be anything. What is something you put in? It could be world hunger, but I mean, depends how philosophical you want to go with it.
That is I've never been asked that
question. For example, a nutritionist put in fasted training, and I put that in as well. That's in part of one of the ones I normally give someone something back. So when the nutritionist came on, she said fasted training is banned. Everyone has to do fueled training. So I said, actually, I fully agree with that. Everyone should be, putting that in to everyone's training. So you shouldn't be doing any training without eating.
I would say absurd marketing claims.
Okay.
I think, again, as I've just discussed, I seriously think there's a big ethical problem with what's going on. The amount of money that some of these brands must be making globally. It's a real ethical, in the way they're getting to the way they're generating this revenue, whether that's from having a big following already or using their community to their online community to push things that don't really do much, or in some cases, and often a lot of cases, make you it's not good for your wellness or well-being in a lot of cases. So that's what I would probably do, because I think brands should be a lot more cognizant of what they're doing.
Makes sense.
Because I think it's just sometimes the ethical line is crossed, and you see a lot of cases that, especially on paid ads, like the claims that they're making.
I seen one the other day of compression socks. This guy said, he's actually a guy.
Yeah, I've seen
he
it.
said that you can take an hour off your marathon time by compression socks. Now, if that was true, then I wouldn't have a job. I'd just give you two sets of compression socks.
Yeah.
Or take 2 hours off it.
Yeah.
Just absolutely ridiculous. For today, what I'm putting into my box is I'm putting in like influencers, podcaster, people telling people that you shouldn't drink coffee 90 minutes before, like after 90 minutes you should wake up, that you shouldn't have a coffee. Life's too short. Have a coffee when you wake up. It wakes you up and it's nice.
Exactly.
It's just something. If you want to have a coffee, have a coffee. Life's short.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. If life's short, sit on the beach and have a great time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jackson.
Absolute
We're going to
pleasure,
wrap
mate.
that up.
Thank you.
It's been a great chat, and like season 2, episode 1 of the podcast is kicked off with an absolute banger episode. So really appreciate you coming in and answering everyone's questions, and I'm sure everyone's a lot more informed. Have you got anything to finally sign off with, or are you happy?
I just thinking in my head, the last thing I'd say is apologies if I spoke way too quickly. Then I speak so quick. Oh, you okay? Oh. Oh, bless her. Oh.
Basically, I don't know if we should keep that in the podcast.
Yeah, I think we should. I think we should have it.
Basically, the lady who's in the podcast just pretty much coughed and nearly died.
Yeah, exactly.
I think she was laughing at my electrolyte vapes joke. But yeah, I don't think you spoke too quickly. You were eloquent. You put across your point really well, and we appreciate you coming in and doing the podcast. And I'm sure everyone appreciates you being a part of the community and being, as you say, a nice guy. So thank you very much.
Absolute pleasure. Cheers, mate.
Bye-bye.
Nice one.